Hello kids! So today we're going to be learning how to find the 6 trigonometric functions by using the coordinate plane and drawing a triangle on the coordinate plane. So we're going to begin with a little prior knowledge of the coordinate plane. Remember that this is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4, and then recall that a point is xy. Now we're going to be using the point to be able to do the sine, cosine, and tangent. So the x is the adjacent side and the y will be the opposite side. And so in quadrant 1, we know that when you have xy, then they're both positive numbers, right? Because you go to the right, that's a positive number, and you go up, that's a positive number. So if then that happens, then you know that the sine is going to be positive, the cosine will be positive, and the tangent will be positive in quadrant 1. Now when we move to quadrant 2, your point xy will be negative for the x and a positive for the y. So that means you go to the left, that's a negative number, and you go up, that's a positive number. So then the sine will be positive because it's the y value. The cosine will be negative. Therefore, the tangent will be negative in quadrant 2. And then when you move to the third quadrant, your xy, you're going to the left and down. So both of them are negative. So both the negative is the x and the y is negative. So then the sine is going to be negative. Because of this, the sine will be negative, the cosine won't be negative, but then the tangent is going to be positive. And then if you're in the fourth quadrant, you have xy. That means you go to the right and down. So going to the right means positive, going down is negative. So this is a positive number, and then this is a negative number. So then your sine will be negative because you're going down. The cosine is positive because you're going to the right. And the tangent will be negative. So we still have the sine of angle A is being the opposite over hypotenuse. But if you think about the opposite as your y value, it's going to be y over hypotenuse. The cosine is still adjacent over hypotenuse. But if you think as adjacent as your x value, it's going to be x over hypotenuse. The tangent is opposite over adjacent. Opposite is the y value, adjacent is the x value. And so now these are the reciprocals. So then you just flip these. Remember, these are your reciprocals. So then the cosecant is the reciprocal of this, so you just flip these two. Same thing for cosine. Secant is reciprocal of cosine, so you just flip those. And the cotangent is the reciprocal of the tangent, so then you just flip those. Okay, just to let you know, the hypotenuse is always positive, okay? And to get the hypotenuse, so the hypotenuse is always positive when you calculate it, and we're going to be using the Pythagorean theorem to find the hypotenuse, okay? So then let's begin with the first example. You have the sine of theta is equal to 3 over 5. And the angle theta is in quadrant 1. So that means that we're going to put, we're going to put the triangle in quadrant 1. So this is quadrant 1. Okay. Now, over here on the side, I'm going to say the sine of theta is equal to 3 over 5. So then that means that the 3 is the opposite. And this is the 5 is the hypotenuse, which is your y over the hypotenuse. Now, we need to find what x is. So we have x squared plus y squared equals c squared. So we need to find what x is. This is 3 squared equals 5 squared. And so we're going to do x squared plus 9 is equal to 25, subtract the 9, subtract the 9. So x squared is 16. Take the square root of that. So x is 4. Okay. So that means we're going to go 4 to the right. That's your x value. And then 3 up. So that's 3, that's 4. And then your hypotenuse, we said it was 5. So this angle is your theta. Okay, so this is the opposite, or your y value. This is your adjacent, or your x value. And then this is the hypotenuse. So now we can calculate all of these things. Well, we already know that this, and everything's positive in the first quadrant, so we don't have to worry about the sign. So this is 3 over 5. The reciprocal of that is 5 over 3. And then the cosine is, remember, the adjacent over hypotenuse, so that's 4 over 5. And the reciprocal of that is 5 over 4. And the tangent is opposite over adjacent, so opposite over adjacent is 3 over 4. And then the reciprocal of that is 4 over 3. Okay, so those would be the answers for number 1, example 1. Now we're going to go over here to example 2. Now you don't need a fancy coordinate plane to do this. Now this only goes up to 6, so I wanted you to know that you can draw your own x, y. So this is your y, this is your x. It's going to be in quadrant 4, so that means it's going to be over here in this quadrant. And then you know that the cosine of theta is the adjacent. So this is the adjacent. And then this is the hypotenuse, which you know that this is x over the hypotenuse. And I'm just going to put h for hypotenuse. So that means we need to calculate the y. So we need to use the Pythagorean theorem here. X squared plus y squared equals c squared. So we're going to do 12 squared plus y squared equals 13 squared. So that's going to be 144 plus y squared equals 169. Subtract the 144. Okay, subtract the 144. Let me get a pen going here. 144. So then y squared is going to be 25. And then you take the square root. And really, you do have plus or minus 5. But we know that the y is negative in the fourth quadrant. So we have to choose y equals negative 5, not the positive 5. Okay? So then over here, we're going to draw this. We know that this is 12. So that's 12, because that's the x value. And then this over here is negative 5. And then you draw your hypotenuse. That's your theta. And the hypotenuse is always positive. That's 13. So then that's how you draw your triangle. So now the sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse. So negative 5 over 13. The cosecant is going to be the reciprocal of that. So that's 13 over negative 5. The cosine is the adjacent side. We already know that it's 12 over 13 and what's given to us. And then the reciprocal is 13 over 12. The tangent is opposite over adjacent, so that's going to be negative 5 over 12. And then the cotangent is going to be the reciprocal of that, 12 over negative 5. And so then that's how you do these problems. So enjoy your day and go do the assignment.